Is PUBG better than Fortnite Battle Royale, or is it the other way around? Why is it that some people say that you can love PUBG or Fortnite but not both? Is it really worth hating a game because it's popular? Whatever happened to moving on a game that you don't like? These are the questions that I'll be trying to answer here. I've done some research on both games and I had enough gameplay experience to talk about these games. Now, I might get some data wrong, or I might use the wrong terminology in some cases. I do not claim to be a know-it-all expert or anything, these are just my observations and my opinions on the matter. As such, I would like for you to give me a few minutes to state my case. Anyway, let's get to it. If you hadn't figured it out already, PUBG, or PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, and Fortnite Battle Royale are both Battle Royale games. In regular game modes, both games pit you against up to 99 other players in an arena. Your goal is simple: be the last man standing. Of course, trying to survive and fight off other players isn't that easy. In PUBG, you must place yourself in an advantageous position where you have a visual on your targets while having cover to drop behind. It can be somewhat difficult to quickly line up your shots to get the kill. Also, it can be somewhat challenging at times pinpointing where you're being shot from. If you happen to be in an open field with little to no environmental cover, chances are you're likely screwed. In Fortnite, enemy players can use building mechanics to create cover or to rush you to get the kill. But you can use those same mechanics to build cover in an open field or to create a pathway to an advantageous position. Both games do require you to plan out a strategy to keep yourself alive. Before I further discuss how Fortnite and PUBG differ from each other, I want to take a quick look at the statistics of the amount of players on both games. Since PUBG was released before Fortnite Battle Royale, we'll take a look at PUBG first. PUBG was released for PC on December 20th, 2017, and has been recently released for the Xbox One on September 4th, 2018. Since its initial release, PUBG had around 3.2 million players at its peak in January 2018, with an average of over 1.5 million players per month at a time. Currently, its average player numbers sit at around 630,000 players. The highest number of players recorded on PUBG is 32 million. Now, let's take a look at Fortnite's history. Fortnite Battle Royale was released for Windows, macOS, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One on September 26, 2017. As of recently, it is now available on iOS, Android, and a Nintendo Switch. In February 2018, it was recorded that an average of over 3 million players were on Fortnite Battle Royale. The highest number of players on Fortnite ever recorded is 125 million. So, based on player count alone, Fortnite Battle Royale dominates PUBG. It's easy to see why. Fortnite is free to play, available on various platforms, and is constantly optimized and updated. Whereas PUBG costs $30, is not available on a PS4 Nintendo Switch, or doesn't seem to receive a healthy number of updates. Turning our attention to the aesthetics and gameplay of both games, we can see that PUBG has a realistic, gritty setting to it. It may be one reason why some people, especially kids, are not so tempted to play this game. PUBG looks intimidating. Well, it's not like the environment is constantly threatening to swallow you whole or anything, it's just that the more colorful, cartoony setting of Fortnite can be more appealing. Controls for both games can take some time to get used to. In PUBG, holding down an interact button to reload your weapon, knowing how to hip fire, aim, and ADS, and rearranging weapons and equipment on the fly are some examples of controls that will need to be mastered over time. In Fortnite, using the building mechanics to outplay your opponent and rearranging the inventory will not be so easy to master, but not so hard either. Additionally, you'll have to be able to swap between fighting and building at any moment. Both games aren't something anyone can easily pick up and play like a pro, but the controls are not unnecessarily challenging to adapt to. In both games, you must deal with rarities in RNG, or random number generator, which is basically the possibility of something to happen. For example, in PUBG, it is common to find a shotgun in many houses and other buildings, while it is rare to find any sniper rifle in those same areas. In Fortnite, you are more likely to find a common assault rifle than you are to come across a legendary RPG. With the way that RNG works in both games, you may end up dying to a shotgun user because you only came across healing items and no weapon. Of course, it comes down to luck when you have to loot at the start of a match. I will discuss how rarities in RNG affects gunfights later in this video. How you will be able to eliminate your opponents to survive is similar in both games, but not really identical. In PUBG, you will have to move around from cover to cover to either get closer to your target or to avoid enemy gunfire. Of course, you'll need the environment to keep yourself hidden, whether it be behind a big boulder or inside a building. If you happen to be in an open field with nothing to use as cover, you would have to do some sort of evasive maneuver to make it difficult for enemy fire to hit you, though you would still be very vulnerable. In Fortnite, it's not really a problem being caught in the open, as you can easily build yourself some cover as mentioned before, unless you have no materials to do so. When you go through a building, you'll have to check those corners and peek as much as possible. It's a really bad feeling in PUBG running headlong to a building, into a room, and getting gunned down by a character who only has underwear on. Not a good feeling. It's more or less the same thing in Fortnite when you suspect that an enemy player is in a building. Running into it without caution may lead you to getting one pumped by a no-skin. Again, not a good feeling. When you do get into gunfights in PUBG, you can hipfire, aim, or ADS. When you aim, you still are hipfiring, but the recoil tightens slightly and you'll move slowly. In third-person perspective, aim will adjust your camera to where you're looking over either shoulder of your character. ADS is self-explanatory. You'll automatically switch to first-person perspective while doing so. Recoil is actually a factor in determining how accurate you are. If you choose to engage an enemy who doesn't know where you are, it's very important that your first shot hits your mark before you're discovered. Laying down automatic fire at range may send your aim easily off target. Burst or single shots are easy to manage. Of course, there are attachments that can mitigate the recoil to give you a slight advantage at range. Also, when dealing with range, you must deal with bullet drop. Each type of ammo will have slightly different trajectories, and it will take some time to familiarize yourself with them. In Fortnite, you can either hipfire or ADS. ADS in Fortnite works differently. Now, there is the weapon mechanic called Bloom, or shooting RNG, which refers to the reticle that you see on your screen. Obviously, the reticle becomes larger when standing and running, and smaller when crouching and not moving. While ADSing, you're not able to shift into first-person perspective. Since you only play in third-person perspective, you can only have a slight increase in magnification zoom with a slightly tighter hip spread. The only way to ADS in first-person perspective is to use any scope weapon in the game. Scope weapons will allow you to ADS in first-person perspective, plus you won't have to deal with Bloom as every shot you take will hit exactly where you aim. With any other non-scope weapon, there is no guarantee that your first shot while ADSing will hit your mark, unless you stand still for a moment. When you're standing still, you're granted first shot accuracy, which only applies to assault rifles, a hunting rifle, and some pistols. For any other weapon without this benefit, the reticle is simply as small as it is allowed to be. Unlike PUBG, bullet drop only applies to sniper rifles. Every other weapon fires off hit scans. Without bullet drop, Fortnite's shooting RNG, especially while ADSing, can prove to be very problematic in many mid to long range gunfights. In many of these instances, it comes down to luck more than skill, meaning that while you may have a legendary scar in your hands, you may get outgunned by someone with just a common AR, assuming that both you and the enemy are equally skilled and fire at each other at the same time. I will quickly mention some other minor differences between PUBG and Fortnite. PUBG currently has 4 large maps of different terrain. Fortnite has only 1 map, which is small compared to PUBG maps, but undergoes some changes from season to season. PUBG has actual vehicles. Fortnite has shopping carts and golf carts as their vehicles. PUBG has attachments. Fortnite has rarities of weapons, and if a weapon like an AR has a scope on it, it is treated like an entirely different weapon with their own rarities, apart from regular AR with nothing on it. PUBG has helmets and body vests that help to reduce the amount of damage you take from enemy fire. Fortnite has shield potions that increases the maximum amount of damage you can take before being eliminated. PUBG limits the amount of items you can carry with tiers of backpacks, with items having different values of weight attached to them. Fortnite limits your inventory to 5 slots regardless of what type of items you have, but lets you carry tons of ammo, materials, and traps. You can go prone in PUBG, but not in Fortnite. You are carried into the map by airplane in PUBG, by battle bus in Fortnite. You can't destroy buildings or the environment in PUBG, but you can in Fortnite. Winning a game in PUBG gives you a chicken dinner. Winning a game in Fortnite gives you a victory royale. Those are many of the differences between PUBG and Fortnite when it comes to aesthetics and gameplay. Different kinds of gunfights, map layout, and tactics separate the games apart. Now, many of said differences can be reasons why players prefer one game over the other. Everyone has different tastes. If you like to play tactically in a militaristic setting, PUBG would be for you. If you're more into games that can be a little chaotic, fast-paced, and, well, not so realistic, Fortnite would be for you. There are plenty of people who decide to hate on PUBG or Fortnite instead of simply disliking it. This is where we discuss the communities surrounding PUBG and Fortnite. In these communities, Fortnite fans hate PUBG and vice versa. Why? Perhaps loyalty to a game is valued. You can find a few Twitch streamers or YouTubers who have played PUBG or Fortnite for a long time and then recently decided to switch to the other game. You could look at the comment sections there and see some people say that, "You left this game to play that game. I'm done. I'm unsubscribing." Plus, other comments along these lines. Those people may be dedicated to one game and one game only, and they may expect others around them to do the same. Perhaps the hate for one game over the other is because it's the cool thing to do. Plenty of people will do so if it means being socially acceptable to friends when it comes to taste in video games. If a YouTuber wants to bash on one game and sing praises to another game, it's because that YouTuber wants to be cool. Plus they can get subscribers and followers for their channel. This doesn't just apply to Fortnite and PUBG, this goes for any game on the market. There are people who say that one game is better than the other and try to make it fact. Of course, there's no way to make an opinion fact. Feelings about a game does not make any opinion a fact. Again, in numerous comment sections under PUBG or Fortnite videos, you can see them saying that this game is trash. Fact. Nobody should play that game. It's dead. You know, all those sorts of comments. And there's a bit of a unique comment that I see floating around on the internet. PUBG is for men. Fortnite is for kids. Well, when you see how both games look, it does seem true that PUBG could be more appealing to an older, more mature audience, while Fortnite is a little wacky and appeals more to younger audiences. Still, it doesn't mean that an older player can enjoy PUBG and Fortnite, but it simply comes down to preference. Loyalty, being cool, making opinion fact, and proving masculinity are some reasons why many people would bash on one game over the other. If it's not just because the controls in PUBG may be a little too much to handle, or because Fortnite is too cartoony for some people to take seriously, it's because people want to feel better about themselves playing one game while shunning the other. If you're asking for my opinion on both games, I enjoy both of them. It's possible to enjoy both Fortnite and PUBG. Since Fortnite Battle Royale is free to play, I got into that first before getting into PUBG. Getting into gunfights is fun, depending on if you have the upper hand. In Fortnite, build battles, while sometimes annoying, can provide some thrills. Knowing how to quickly build over your enemy, reacting quickly when your enemy traps or corners you, that's fun to me. In PUBG, getting shot at forces you to adjust your position to where you can see your enemy while having enough cover to avoid taking damage. When you're in the top 10, you'll have to get into cover and try to visualize where enemy players are so that you know when to engage an enemy or not. That's a little exhilarating. Now, I do have issues with both games. PUBG, where are the optimization fixes for the game? PUBG just recently launched their official release of the game for the Xbox One, and it plays like it's still in the game preview state. The graphics don't seem to load quickly enough. Here's one time I nearly got stuck in a building because the game didn't render the graphics fast enough. Seriously? Will it ever be possible for the game to run at over 30 frames per second in the future? Well, probably not. Consoles aren't exactly powerful enough to render the graphics faster, and I don't see where I could adjust the graphics setting to lower the resolution. In the game, do vehicles not seem to work properly here? I want to turn just a little bit, not end up doing half donuts on a highway while getting shot at. I shouldn't have to interact with something twice to pick it up. Now, Fortnite, if I want to build a stairs to get to a room, please don't place it here. I swear, this is how people die in Fortnite and how headsets are broken. My reticle is centered at an enemy player. How are my bullets going everywhere but at the target? Oh, right. Bloom. Why do shotguns still tickle my enemies at times? It seems that shotguns are consistent at being inconsistent. Despite both games' flaws, I still thoroughly enjoy both games. And I continue to do so by switching up what Battle Royale game I want to play the next day, or just play an entirely different game. I think this whole PUBG versus Fortnite thing is just nonsense. Now, I know that Fortnite Battle Royale was inspired by PUBG. After seeing the initial success that PUBG enjoyed, Fortnite wanted that same success, so they created their own version of a Battle Royale game. That's when PUBG Corp tried to sue Epic Games, as PUBG Corp believed that, quote, Fortnite may be replicating the experience for which PUBG is known, unquote. Well, there is H1Z1 and there was Minecraft survival games, but never mind those. When Fortnite Battle Royale first launched, it seemed a lot like PUBG before everyone learned how to build 10-story 1x1 skyscrapers in a matter of 3 seconds. Then, over time, Fortnite added a bunch of items to the game, making the similarity between PUBG and Fortnite disappear somewhat. The attempt at suing Epic Games and at trying to take some competition away from Fortnite fell flat on its head. I feel that PUBG Corp could have used the resources to improve their game rather than going after someone else. If you're talking about PUBG versus Fortnite when it comes to the numerous opinions of the communities, again, it's just nonsense. Devoting yourself to one game and overly hating the other game seems like too much work. In YouTube, again, you'll see that PUBG or Fortnite needs to die, it's trash, all those sorts of reasoning that provide vague detail or very subjective feelings on why these people don't like a game. Now, if you don't like a game because you genuinely don't enjoy it, or because there are bugs and crashes that make the game less than playable, then I can totally understand a hate for a game. Otherwise, if you don't like a game because you decide without playing it that this is the game that you should hate, or because a popular YouTuber or Twitch streamer said that this is the game that no one should play, that's bullshit. Why should I let a popular figure tell me what games I should play? I'll figure out the games I like on my own, thank you very much. Again, this comes down to preference. And even then, some people will try to make their preferences fact and make fun of anyone else who doesn't agree that Fortnite is better or PUBG is better. And the PUBG is for men quote, if the people say that because of how the game looks compared to Fortnite or because of the different approaches to gunfights in each game, then yes, PUBG is definitely for a more mature audience. If those same people say they feel better about themselves, or as a way to constantly show off their masculinity, well, that's an insecurity issue they need to get fixed. The internet is toxic and will continue to be so for, I don't know, forever? You'll see these kinds of people everywhere and not just in the video game world. That's the internet and the world for you. Nothing is more mind-boggling for me than people who will hate a game that is popular because it's popular, especially when they gotta hate another game later because of that game's eventual popularity. This really applies more to Fortnite than to PUBG because of how many players Fortnite can amass per month compared to PUBG. Now, every game will eventually die out after reaching peak amounts of players. That's not to say that after that peak amount, the game dies straight away. The way I see it, as long as hundreds of thousands of players, if not a few million, per day are returning to play those popular games, those games aren't dying, let alone being dead. They simply aren't at their peak anymore. An obvious sign of a game dying is when it becomes increasingly difficult to find a match to play in. Yes, while PUBG might be dying, as it is losing concurrent players as we speak, it is far from being dead, at least in the foreseeable future, so long as you are able to quickly find a match. When a popular game finally dies, as in lobbies are either very hard to find or basically non-existent, people who used to play that game move on, and so do those that hate on the game's popularity. Those haters move on to another popular game they hate on. This hate one game until it dies and hate another game until that dies thing, I could never understand. Is it that hard to ignore a game that you don't like? Look, I'm not a big fan of Rainbow Six Siege, not because the game is popular. I like the many ways you could approach the objective, but I could never really adapt to the gameplay and gunfights and all that. I left the game, wishing to have nothing to do with it anymore. I tried to like it, but I couldn't. I'm glad that the game is still doing well, it's just that it's not for me. So, is it hard to move on like that? I would definitely think so, but many people in the gaming community can't seem to do it. Again, that's the internet and the world for you. At the end of the day, is PUBG better than Fortnite Battle Royale, or is Fortnite Battle Royale better than PUBG? My answer? Whichever game that you enjoy more is better than the other game. This applies to all other video game that's still out there as well. Forget how popular a game is, forget what the communities are saying about it. If the game is something that you like, and that you will see yourself playing often, that game is for you. However, if that game is not enjoyable, do not force yourself to play it much. It's different when the game has numerous bugs or glitches that ruin the game's potential, and if that is the case, it would be up to you and many other players to provide feedback to the game developers, hopefully fixing the game to work and shine in the brightest light possible. Otherwise, step away from the games that don't suit your taste, and enjoy the ones that do. That will wrap up what I have to say for PUBG and Fortnite Battle Royale. Hello, this is Black Omega X, and if you made it this far, I want to hug you. Yes, that's how much I appreciate you spending a few minutes of your time to hear my case. Now, in the main part of this video, I did say I covered many of the differences between PUBG and Fortnite, but I know that I may have left a few crucial differences out of the discussion. As such, I ask that you provide some feedback in the comment sections below. Which parts of the video were good? Which areas do I need to improve on? I would love to have more discussions like this on my channel, so your feedback would be valuable in helping me improve. Subscribe to this channel if you do want to see more of these kinds of videos, plus playthroughs and rant type discussions. See you next time.